When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there out there in internet land. Episode 33 of Join Up Dots. Thanks for tuning in. Although I suppose you don't really tune in, do you? So thanks for clicking a mouse or whatever you do. Today's guest wrote her own introduction. Now, normally I compose the words that I use to bring them into the show, but this lady has talent flowing from every fingertip. So when I read her website About Me page, I thought, really, how can I improve upon that? So quite honestly, I haven't. So let me simply tell you about her in her own words as we discuss how she became so fortunate to find love, create success, and have an incredible amount of happiness in her life. Now, she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Her parents were never rich and probably never will be. So it wasn't easy to gain success in her life. In fact, it required many late nights and early mornings, heartache and pain, hardship and sorry. But most importantly, it required being ballsy. It required her getting out of her own way, never giving up, even though life was brutal far more times than she anticipated. It required an unwavering commitment to success, an unbelievable amount of faith, and a serious belief in herself and her values. See, how could I write something better than that now, really? I just couldn't. She's been captivating, inspiring and motivating entrepreneurs across the globe since her early 20s, chosen as Evolution Magazine's 2013 Power Player Under 40, and featured on CNN, Forbes, Yahoo Finance, and receiving dozens of other accolades, as her passion for personal growth resonates with audiences looking for more fulfillment in all aspects of life and business. She is the author of Be Ballsy, How Not to Suck at Love, Success and Happiness, and Be a Baller, The Blueprint to Have It All. She states, I love teaching audiences how to break through self-limiting beliefs so they can have it all at the same time. So let's get some live words flowing from her mouth in the same passionate way that her fingers deliver as I introduce to you the one and only motivational powerhouse that is Melissa Krivachek. How are you today, Melissa?
Awesome, David. Thanks for asking.
I imagine with your life seeing as it is at the moment, you must wake up feeling awesome every single day.
Yeah. 100%. I don't think life could be any better than it is right this moment. And I think you really have to live in the moment. So you can't anticipate the future and you can't live in the past. So living in the moment is where it's at.
So what can bring you down, Melissa, if anything can bring you down? What would put Melissa in a bad mood?
Oh, what would put me in a bad mood? I don't know. It would have to be something really dramatic because it's not easy to really get me upset.
Can I try? Sure, try
absolutely.
Over the next
Go
hour?
For it.
I live in a house full of women, so I'm pretty used to getting women upset, I promise you.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, it's huge success. I've been absolutely astonished as I've been reading about you, and not astonished because of the level of success you're having, because that's all been driven by passion and hard work. But success that it wasn't obvious success. It wasn't success that, as the introduction said that you wrote, you'd look back and go, I can see her path from an early age. This has been success built on sort of bloody-mindedness, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way I could have ever dreamed of being where I am today.
Why not? Why could you not dream? Take me back to the sort of little Melissa. What was she aiming to do?
You know, growing up, I actually wanted to be an obstetrician. I wanted to deliver babies, and I wanted to have 12 kids myself. And, you know, I actually don't even have kids right now, which is fine. But being an obstetrician and being a full-time entrepreneur are two very different occupations, both demanding in their own ways, but one is much more intense than the other. So as a kid, you know, wanting to be an obstetrician and then going to school for business and getting into retail and spending 6 years doing that, you know, throughout that period of time, I was like, I will be the next Sam Walton. But then I got fired for doing the right thing. So then I didn't know what I was going to do. So, you know, the career that I'm in right now, was never really fully ever even thought of, really. I mean, because I went to college for business and then I got a master's in clinical psychology. So none of the things I did in the past really led up to where I am today.
So the theme of Join Up Dots is really that life is all about stumbles and falls and mistakes and truth and faith and destiny and whatever. And when you look back at your life, when you got fired, that must have been a pretty bad point of your life, especially as you were saying you got fired for doing the right thing. I'm not going to dwell on what you did, but when you look back on it now, was that actually a good thing that happened?
Yep, it was, and I don't regret doing it because it was the ethical and right thing to do. So even though it put me in a bad position, and yeah, it definitely irritated me. That would probably be one thing that would piss me off, even though I know I'm in a position now where I literally can't be fired. You know, it is what it is, and I don't ever regret making that decision.
And that's what life is about, isn't it? It's making decisions, throwing your cards in the air and seeing where they fall. And sometimes they fall obviously in your favour, and other times it's not till a long way later that you can actually go, yeah, okay, that was dark, but really I just had the wrong glasses on at the time and I couldn't see that it was an opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking back over the last 4 years of my life, like I really couldn't even begin to imagine that my life would unfold in the series of events that has happened, and as a result I would have this much success, or I would be this happy, or I would fall in love and have, you know, the greatest relationship ever, and I would be able to serve great clients and tap into my passion and, you know, really know that this is what I was born to do.
So what brought it about, Melissa? What was the first dot that you started to step on to move towards your path? Because there is a time in your life, and every single person who has been on the show has said to me something along the lines of, I was lost, I didn't really know what I should be doing, but something happened, and then bang, I realised and I moved on. So what was that first thing when you thought, actually, I might not have been in the right place delivering babies, this is what I should have been doing?
Yeah, well, a whole series of negative events happened to me, and the very last thing that happened that was incredibly dramatic was I got caught for speeding one too many times, and so the judge actually put me in jail for speeding, which was ridiculous. And it wasn't jail for like a couple hours, it was jail for like 6 days. And so at that point, I was broken mentally, physically, emotionally, and psychologically, and it was just the lowest point I had ever been. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. You know, that was repossessed. I was evicted from my house. I was $50,000 in student loans. I, you know, maxed out 5 credit cards. I was back home with my parents. Life really sucked, and I was at the highest weight I'd ever been at. And so that was really the turning pivotal point where it was, okay, you can keep going down this path of destruction, or you can actually do something with your life and make it count. And at this point, there's only one option. Do something with your life and make it count.
But so many people don't make that decision, do they?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to how bad do you really want it and what is your driving force. So people make decisions every day, and a lot of people want to lose weight, right? So they don't actually focus on what they should be doing. They focus on what they shouldn't be doing. So their brain automatically says, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, so I'm going to do it. Because anytime you tell your brain or your mind that you're not going to do something, that's the first thing you want to do.
So how do you overcome that? If you're in a situation, our listeners sitting there out there at the moment, and they're thinking, yes, I want to change my life. I'm not happy at the moment. I've got a rubbish boyfriend. My job's rubbish. XYZ, whatever situation they're in. How can you make that mental decision if up to that point you've never done it before?
Yeah, so the first thing you look at is, are your values and beliefs aligned with your actions and results? Clearly not, if you're not happy with your life. So what you need to do then is look at what do you actually value. And I would just basically say, look around your house right now and what's hanging on the walls, what's sitting in the corners, what's in front of you, what do you have on your laptop, what do you have on your phone. So if it's family, if it's video games, if it's board games, whatever it is that is surrounding you is what you value. So you have to start creating new values so that throughout a period of time you can change the inputs of your mind so the output automatically changes.
In what way, though? You're sitting in your house, you're looking around, and you see all the things that you filled your house up. How does that translate into value?
Well, people tend to think about or talk about or collect things that they value. So if I want to have a conversation about relationships, then I value relationships. If I have family pictures hanging on the wall, then I value my family. If I have, a collection of video games, then I value spending time in front of the TV.
Okay, but how does somebody translate that into a life-changing experience? Is it that cut and dry, or is it just a sort of gradual over a period of time that they're actually training themselves to project value on things, and where they might have been dismissive, they now kind of go, no, actually, my family are a good thing, and this is a good thing, and they start to realise what they've got in their life. Is that how it works?
So it's a little bit of both. If it's a negative pattern or habit that you've developed, then you definitely want to get rid of that as quickly as possible and replace it with a positive habit or value. So, if you spend 34 hours in front of the TV, which most people do per week, then you want to either get rid of your TV or get self-discipline to spend more time doing other healthier habits like working out versus sitting on your ass. So yes, it's gradual. However, you have to be aware of the habits and the values that you have that are holding you back from everything you want in life.
Right, I'm going to take you back in time, okay? I'm going to take you back to those 6 days in jail, and they must have been horrific.
They were.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing an hour in jail, let alone 6 days. I'd probably come out the other end at least being able to play the mouth organ. I think that would be the only thing that I could get, a harmonica skill. While you was in jail, was there any other inmates that you looked at and you thought, my God, if I don't sort myself out, I'm going to be that person? Or was it just the general unpleasantness of the whole experience that really sort of cemented your belief that I've got to do something?
Well, first and foremost, I was in a jail where there were no other inmates. So it was literally myself and my brain for 6 days, which was horrible. And I think that's sort of why it became a turning point.
So you had time to think?
I had time to do nothing but think, literally for 6 days. And that's like 130 some hours at least. I mean, imagine going into meditation for 6 straight days with absolutely no option to do anything else. It's you. There is very little TV. There's no computers. There's no cell phones. There's no friends. There's no calling out. There's crappy food. There's a shitty bed. I mean, it's endless. All of the things that you just don't want to go through. But if you were to experience it, it would be life-changing for sure.
So where did you get your path from? This is what I'm trying to really drill down into, because you're doing such global work now and you're dealing with such high-level clients, and you're obviously motivational and inspirational, which generally comes from your core anyway. But how did you start to develop those skills that took you from that rubbishy bed with the rubbish food all the way to where are you now? Because that path is almost too big to comprehend. So you must have started on bite-sized chunks working towards it.
Right. Okay. So when I worked in retail for 6 years, I dealt with people every single day. So I managed 24 stores for 2 Fortune 500 companies, which means, I had to inspire the people, I had to take care of them and all of that. So those sort of skills were instilled in me through my mentor and throughout a period of 6 years. And then, I went to school for clinical psychology, so I understood people even more. And then I determined what drove them. And after I got out of jail, Eric, my first and non-paying client, he called me to sell me Visalis. Are you familiar with the company?
No, not at all.
How about network marketing or MLM?
Yes.
Okay, so basically it's a company that's MLM. And
okay.
I really had nothing. Like I already said, no car, no job, whatever. And if I was going to ask my parents for $500, I better be making that $500 back and making it back very quickly. So I was very adamant about what success he had. And, he, after a period of time and me asking questions not a lot of people ask because, I really did want to know. And he broke down and said he was living on the living room floor of his parents' house, 5 kids, no passion, no income. He hated his life. He hated his wife and all of that. So me being in the same sort of situation or a similar situation, I could really relate to that. So empathy kicked in. But more than that, I figured out what his passion was, which was fitness. And I directed him to go to the gym and start doing classes for free and start getting out in the community and getting his name known. And throughout that period of transformation for him, I sort of went through a similar transformation, really integrating personal development and all of that into my daily routines and changing pretty much everything I had ever known, every belief I had ever had. And as a result, I am where I am today. So, 2.5 years later, Eric is a millionaire and he's doing great. He's actually in the same relationship. He's very supportive of his kids. He's got his own gym and all of that. So it was a long journey of personal development, of self-help. And I know people don't really want to talk about that. But the reality is if you don't care for yourself, then nothing else in the world is going to matter because you're too focused on what other people want and not what you want.
I think that's a huge point to this, and it's a huge point to every single episode because it is mindset, it is passion, it is belief, it's working hours when nobody else is working, it's drive, all those kind of things. But unless you actually sort yourself out, you're never going to get that, are you? You're just going to flop on the sofa watching box sets and eating crisps and whatever. You've got to really focus in on yourself to drive success. I don't believe anyone has become successful by sitting on a sofa 24 hours a day.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's a relentless, ruthless commitment to achieving the goals that you want to achieve, and you have to really focus on what you want to achieve. And that's the self-help part. But everyone wants to stray away from saying the word self-help. But the reality is if you do not take care of yourself, you cannot take care of other people because you cannot give what you do not have. It's like writing a rubber check. If the money's not there, the money's not there.
Do you love yourself, Melissa?
Absolutely. So to have a really great relationship, I think the number one quality you must have is you must love yourself or you cannot give love to another individual. And they must love themselves in order for them to reciprocate.
Yeah, because I asked that because I was interested in the response because generally I love myself, I do. And, I say to the kids, if I had a chance, I'd be kissing myself all day. But if you say that to people, they kind of go, oh, no, that's arrogant, that's conceited or whatever. But it's not, is it? You've got to love yourself first of all.
Have you ever watched The Secret?
I have actually, and as I was saying that, I seem to remember the words of Bob Proctor
Yes.
Who, yeah, he said the same kind of thing, and I think that must have been in my mind somewhere. Because if anyone hasn't seen The Secret, and we're not going to get into the law of attraction now, that's not what this show is about at this moment in time. But there is a chap on this video who says those same words. I love myself, I would kiss myself every single day. And from the moment he started to get these thoughts, because he felt better about himself, he was more open to putting himself out into the world. This is really how it works. And because you put yourself out into the world, you come in contact with more people give you power, you give them power, and it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. But you've got to start by looking at yourself and how you're interacting with the world.
Absolutely.
What's your point on that, Melissa?
That,
yeah?
I was like, that's the first thing that popped into my head. And I'm, the law of attraction is exactly that, whatever. I generally don't talk about that. But the reality is, Bob said the same thing. So it comes back to any successful person knows they have to love themselves in order to give love to everybody else, especially when you're serving millions of people on a global level.
Is there anyone out there when you speak to them, and obviously with your experience and your track record, they shouldn't do this, but is there anyone that you give them the advice and they just kind of throw it back at you because they haven't achieved that first level of loving themselves?
Yeah, there's two types of people that do that. The ones that are incredibly not successful, and then you've got the ones that are very ego-driven.
And which ones do you come in contact with most?
I think they're both equal, but I would definitely say more egotistical individuals.
And how far can ego take someone? Can ego take them to the top, or is there a ceiling? Because I was speaking to a gentleman this morning, actually, who's going to be episode 13, I think, Andrew Bryant. Yeah, episode 13. And he was saying that he deals with a lot of corporate leaders, and some of them, he's amazed how far they've got, because they really haven't got these social skills, the empathy, or the belief in themselves to actually get there. It's only a kind of misplaced ego that has pushed them to as far as they can go. And then they hit that ceiling because they haven't got the skills to take it further.
Yeah, what he's referring to is actually called the ceiling of complexity. But I would say that ego can take you anywhere you want to go, but it's never going to keep you there for a very long period of time.
I think that's spot on, really. And it's not a nice thing to have ego anyway, is it? It's nice to feel good about yourself. It's nice to think that you're doing a good job. But ego, you can leave it, can't you? Because I think the biggest stars in the world, if you have a conversation with Tom Hanks, I haven't, maybe I'll get him on the show one day. I bet Tom Hanks hasn't got an ego at all, because he's totally content. He's totally secure with his achievements. And it's the guys that are, or the ladies, that are desperately trying to climb up that ladder and justifying themselves. That's where the ego comes out. But ultimately, that's the thing that's going to hold them back.
Yeah, well, I would actually disagree and say Tom Hanks definitely has an ego, or he wouldn't have the career that he has. Because in the beginning, ego is pretty much everything. You have to sort of be selfish. I know I had to be in order to attain any level of success, because you can't think of other people as competition. You literally have to think of them as another individual wanting to go after the same goals. However, you're going to beat them out, period, no matter what it takes.
And do you feel that on a daily basis still? Are you out to achieve more than your competitors and your peer group?
Man, this is going to sound egotistical. Yep, absolutely. I'm out to dominate the market, period. I'm out for that for one reason and one reason only, and that is to help as many people as I can help in the time that I have here, because you really only have one life. And if you're not about to transform other people's lives as a result of how far you've come, then you're not really doing what you were born to do. And so, yeah, I'm absolutely out to take control of, the situation and push people to greatness.
But to me, that doesn't seem like an ego, because there is a desire to provide for others. I think that's just a worthy ideal. If it was you just trying to grab, and you're sitting there pulling the money closer and closer and closer, yeah, I would say that was wrong. But for you to go, no, I want to dominate this market because in my personal opinion, I can do this better than anyone else anyway. And the fact that I can do it better, I need to get out in front of as many people as possible, and then that is where my true value and my true path is. So I don't think that is ego to do that.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people would say it is ego because if you look at the majority of the world, only 3% are incredibly successful. So you've got the other 97% saying, the rich get rich and the poor get poor, which is completely bullshit. And then you've got them saying, it's not fair that so-and-so drives, a Bugatti or a Bentley or whatever, a nice car and lives in a great house and has a great relationship. Like, I want all that. But oftentimes it's those people that let their egos get in the way. So we all have ego, but you have to set that aside from time to time and really say to yourself or allow someone else to say to you, get over it. Like, get out of your own mind. Get out of your own way.
I'm going to play Steve Jobs' speech here because this is the theme of the show, and this is the connecting, the join up dots. And we've already touched on some of your early difficulties and obstacles. But what I'm interested in here is the side of the speech when he talks about trust and intuition. And I'm very interested in what level that plays in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to bring Steve Jobs on, and when it fades out, we're going to find out how much you actually deal with trust and intuition on a daily basis.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So he talks about well-worn path and creating your own path. Is faith a big thing? And I'm not talking about religious faith. I'm talking about personal faith in yourself and the ability to take that intuition and drive it in the direction that you want to go.
Yeah, faith is fear. Faith is fear in action.
What do you mean by that?
Well, basically, we all have fears. So if you get over your fear or if you step into your fear, that's taking a leap of faith and knowing that whatever the consequences or circumstances, that you will get through it. A lot of people tend to live in fear, but once you step into faith and know that the decision was worth making, then you live with the outcome of the decision, regardless if it was right or wrong. But you never regret making that decision, and that's faith. It's blindly going where no one else has gone, or blindly believing that something is going to come of whatever decision you just made.
And what about intuition?
I'm sorry, what?
And what about intuition? Your gut feeling about what's right and wrong and what path you should take.
You just go with what you know is right. So every decision you make should be based off of your heart, really. I mean, because your head can learn anything. So if I wanted to learn rocket science, I could literally go to the library and read about it for hours and days on end and learn it. But that doesn't mean that my heart wants to become a rocket scientist. It simply means that it's possible to learn anything. So you should definitely trust your heart and go where that leads.
And if somebody doesn't know where that leads, or they haven't quite got to the point of knowing what's in their heart, how is a good way of actually kickstarting it? Somebody's out there and they want to know, they want to change, but there's so much information out there and they haven't quite mastered the thing that really gets them up in the morning, that covers them in rocket fuel and gives them energy like they haven't had. Is there any way that you would suggest, from your experience, that somebody out there could start to find that passion in their heart?
Yeah, look at what you do every single day. And whatever you do the most is what you value the most. So that's sort of probably what's going to fuel your passion to find your purpose in life. And I think the big thing is that people understand the difference between inspiration and motivation. I know, like, you talk about motivation and inspiration in your intro, and motivation is really an internal drive to be greater, to do better things. And inspiration is an individual or individuals surrounding or standing in front of you, providing guidance and being the person that you want to be. So anytime someone goes to an event like a Tony Robbins or Les Brown or Deepak Chopra or any sort of event or reads any sort of book, that is not motivation. That's inspiration. Motivation is an internal drive to succeed. It's an internal drive to achieve something. It's an internal drive to conquer your goals and fears and all of that.
But it's not easy to find that, is it? You know, in your story, in your background, in your history, there didn't seem to be anything that really said to me, yes, I can see totally why she's hit this path.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Would you totally say that the late nights and the hardship and everything is worth it? I know it's worth it for you because you've achieved, you know, mind-blowing success. But for somebody out there who's going, oh, it's never going to happen for me. It's never going to happen.
You know what, though? I said that too. So I think we all have limiting beliefs. Like, I grew up in a town of 350 people, and, you know, $40,000 a year in income, and barely keeping a roof over your head and food on the table and driving crappy cars and really just being average, mediocre, and content was where it's at and where it's still at today for those individuals. But anyone that really, really, really wants something will find a way, and they will literally do whatever it takes. So that sort of means if you look at Steve Jobs, you know, he didn't really have a path either until he ran into his friend and saw, you know, what his friend was building on the living room table. And then suddenly, you know, there was the light. But at the end of the day, if you ask any incredibly successful person, they will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, the late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices, the commitment, the drive, the passion is all worth finding your purpose and all worth tapping into your full potential and all worth changing the world, because it's the crazy people that really, really, truly succeed. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is another great example, founder of Facebook. You know, Tony Hsieh, founder of Zappos. These are all people that society deems crazy. And I mean, I get that all the time. Like, I go running through a small town here in Iowa, which is where I live, and, you know, I'll be singing while I'm running, and people are, you know, looking at me like I'm out of my mind. But the reality...
What, out loud? Do you sing out loud?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Well, yeah, why not? It's just kind of slightly unusual, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's definitely unusual, but the reality is that it's the people who take the risk, who live without fear, are the ones that, you know, really live life. And I think that's where a lot of people have this debilitating fear. Like, I want to do that, but I'm very scared of how people are going to react. I forget about how people are going to react, and I say, this is my life and I'm going to live it the way I want to live it, because I only have one shot. So I better make it my best. And, you know, I don't really have to consider other people's thoughts in the process of running down the sidewalk and singing, because they have that same option.
So what do you sing when you're running along?
I actually sing Nickelback. I love Nickelback. It keeps me motivated to keep going. And, you know, I'm not even a big fitness fan. I really recently, like 4 months ago, started really working out and hitting it hard. And I actually went from a 3X to a size 14. And so, like, that is my motivation. And anytime you want to achieve something in life, you have to have something that drives you. So for me, that's, you know, running down the sidewalk singing. I don't care. But that's how you're going to get results. You have to have something that's going to motivate you.
Wouldn't it be a wonderful world, though, if everyone sung? So you stepped out your door and everyone's going, good morning, and it'd be like being in a musical all the time, wouldn't it? It'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you know, a lot of people are embarrassed, but they're thinking in their head, like, I wish I could do that. I wish I wasn't embarrassed. I wish I didn't have fear. I wish I could achieve that. You know, I wish I had that level of success. But you can. You just have to take the risk and forget about what everybody else is thinking, because they're only going to think that for a very short period of time, and then their mind is going to switch on to something completely different, like what's on TV, what's on the radio, what's on the news, which, by the way, I don't even pay attention to.
When was the last time you watched the news?
Oh, I hate the news. Like, I don't even know. Probably like 5 years ago. I freaking hate the news. If I hear the news in the background when I'm on the phone with somebody, I will find a reason to get off the phone. I don't want to hear the news.
Because a lot of people feel that successful people have to be clued in. They need to be wired into everything that's happening at all times. And I'm finding more often than not that the people who are really crushing it in their environment are so focused that they don't read newspapers, they don't read the news and watch the news and stuff. And it's like if something major has happened, they'd find out about it anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what Facebook's for. But seriously, the news is really a distraction to make you think negative things are happening in the world. And while they may be happening in the world, and I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention on some level or know what's going on at some level, it's really a distraction to your mind, because it's all of the negative things that are happening around you that don't even really affect you. They just affect your mind. You know, a car accident in Kansas City is not going to affect what I'm doing today. You know, a fire 2 blocks away is not going to affect what I'm doing today. It's just going to distract me.
Yeah, I used to take a train journey every morning, and I remember this one morning, there was always 3 newspapers, and you'd get on the train and just pick up a newspaper. And I read this first story, and it was about a dad killing his children, which is like dreadful. And then I read the next page, and it was pretty much the same story. And by the time I got to about the 4th, I closed the newspaper, and I thought, right, the only thing I'm going to read from now on is the sport. And effectively I did. I only turned it onto the soccer and, you know, the baseball or whatever I was interested in at that time. And that was probably about 5 years ago, and it hasn't changed my life in one little bit.
Positively, it hasn't?
There's no negative in my life. There really is no negative.
Which means that it has dramatically changed your life in a positive way.
I think my whole life has changed in a hugely positive way since I got all the people that were bringing me down out of my way. So what I did a few years ago, I looked through my sort of email list, and I realised there was a lot of people that I was in contact with that I actually didn't like. I'm not sure why I was in contact with them in any shape or form. So I just cut them off. And a lot of colleagues at that time went, oh, you can't do that, you know. And I said, I really don't care. And it was just like I had to clean myself. And I didn't know what my path was going to be at that time, but I just knew that I had to get rid of things that were holding me back somehow. And so I did that. And yeah, that, not reading the news, not watching the news, only speaking to positive people. And the fact that on a daily basis now I'm having these conversations with hugely positive, hugely motivational people, it can't stop me. It is like putting rocket power on me, because there's nothing to anchor me to a negative situation.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. And I think you brought up a great point. You really do have to cleanse yourself. You have to cleanse your body of all the toxins. You have to cleanse your email box of all the toxins, your social media of all the toxins, your home of all the toxins. And toxins mean, you know, negative relationships, negative people, negative impacts. You know, the cigarettes, the unhealthy food, the pop, the soda, the candy, the Xbox games or whatever kind of video games, you know, the books that are about, you know, suicide, murder, and whatever else. All of that has to go, and then you have to dump your relationships. And I mean, I went through the same cleansing process. Just cut practically everyone out of your life for a period of time where you heal yourself.
And did people think that you were being unfair at the time?
Oh, I've been called many things. Unreasonable and unfair is definitely 2 of them.
But now they look at you now, they must have realised that actually you were setting foundations for success.
Well, when they look at me now, so I'll just give you an example. My sister, I live in this gorgeous 4,000 square foot home, and it has 5 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, 2 living rooms, 2 kitchens, 2 washrooms, a 3-car garage. It's an amazing home. And my sister, when she came the first time, she goes, "Oh, if I just lived in this neighborhood, things would change." And I'm thinking to myself, that's not how it works, because I could never afford to live in this neighborhood if I didn't change before I got here.
And did you share that wisdom with your sister?
Of course not, because see, family is the hardest thing to change, and your friends come in a close second. So even if I were to say that, she could look back over the last 3 years and know it was because I made an insane amount of sacrifices to live in this home. I mean, going back and living with mom and dad, not taking a job, not having a car, not having a relationship, not doing any of those things, those were all massive, massive sacrifices. And then spending, thousands of hours just in personal development, watching YouTube videos and reading books. And, I've read like 5 books every week for the last couple years. And I mean, that's a lot of books. That's way, way more than the average person reads.
Yeah, I couldn't comprehend how you can read 5 books. That's almost a book a night.
Yeah, I'm a really fast reader, and I use a highlighter, and I actually type notes afterwards, and I listen to audios, and it's really, really important that you're constantly feeding your mind positive things, and you're constantly looking for the next level of success, because there never is a limit to success. And I think that a lot of people say there is, but if you look at, let's just say Dr. Phil and Oprah, for example, because a lot of people are familiar with them, and I'm sure you are too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so they share the same audience, and they're both incredibly successful in their own ways. So anyone can reach any level of success at any time and share it with someone else by sharing the same audience, but making an insane amount of money and an insane impact.
So you don't really have to focus in on a niche which is unique. You just have to focus in on a niche that is already working.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already created.
And that's a powerful statement, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people out there, and I think I was the same. Before I started doing this podcast, I had this epiphany. And I suddenly thought to myself, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a daily show, and I'm going to be speaking to motivational people and inspirational people, and it's going to be amazing and unique. And then when I started getting it together, I thought, oh my God, everyone's doing this. And I did go through maybe a week or so thinking, oh, what's the point? It's not going to happen, it's already been done. But now I realise, because it's going really well and the audience is building and whatever, it's because I'm doing something in the way that I do it. And I only do it in that way. And if you respond to that, brilliant, you're a listener. And if you don't like that, then you'll go off and listen to somebody else. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need to do something as well as you possibly can.
Yeah, I've been reminded of that many, many times. And I have a very large following of thousands of people on social media, and I share my life. I'm incredibly transparent. I actually do my own updates, and I do them 14 times a day, every single day. And I actually have 3 interviews to do today, and I've got 5 clients to serve, and I actually have sales calls as well. And so, it's really important that you focus on how you do it and not how everybody else would or could do it. So, the name of my books are Be Ballsy and Be a Baller. And I've had so many people read those, and they resonate with them. So you have to create something that's relevant to the people that you want to attract in your life, whatever that is. And for you, that's this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the moment, it's only the podcast. There's so many other elements that are coming out of the woodwork, and I'm thinking, no, I can't focus in on those. This is enough for me at the moment, and that's all I'm doing. And there will come a point, I'm sure, where the path will fork, and I'm going to have to make a decision. But at the moment, it's kind of hard enough to do this as well as I can without all the other sort of distractions.
It's so funny that you say that, because every person that gets to any level of success has so many distractions along the way. You know, when I wrote the books, I had options for 2 different radio shows. And then I had, the option to do a reality television show. And now I'm doing a national and local news, like TV tour, and it just, the possibilities are endless. So distractions are going to come your way every single day, but you have to focus on what it is that you really want. And if launching the podcast and really being successful in the podcast arena is what you want, then I would say stay focused on that versus getting distracted by all these shiny objects, which may or may not work out.
I'm writing down here, Melissa said stay focused, and I'm going to pin that in front of me. So every day, if something comes out of the woodwork, I'm going to say no. Melissa said no.
No, I think you should definitely make a decision. But here's the thing. Do you have goals?
At the moment, it's just to build the audience as large as I can make it, really, and enjoy myself every single second of the day.
Okay, so I would write those goals on a piece of paper. A lot of people have vision boards. I'm actually against vision boards. What I do is I write down on a piece of paper what it is that I want to achieve. And then I write down, after I achieve those things, what do I want to buy with the money that I've accumulated from doing that particular activity. And I will make sure that every single decision I make is geared towards achieving those things and getting the reward for it. So whether it's something that's 99 cents or $99 or whatever, I make sure that every decision I make is, okay, that's a yes because it's aligned with this particular goal and it's going to get me this particular reward, which I want.
Incremental gains. Small bite-sized chunks leading to a target.
Absolutely, 100%. That's how you should always do it.
Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to rip up my vision board, and I'm not going to say Melissa said no anymore. I'm going to focus in on that. There's words of wisdom there. Just at the end of the show, Melissa, I want you to share some words of wisdom with a very important person, because this is a part of the show that we call the Sermon on the Mic, and this is when we send you back like a time traveller to have a one-in-one with your younger self, and you can choose any age of younger Melissa that you want. But once the music finishes, I'm going to just leave you to have your little chat, and we'll see what comes out of it. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
So I would tell my unsuccessful self at 20, 21 years of age that listening to authority isn't always the best thing, because you can make the decision that's right for you. But regardless, you should respect authority, because there are laws in place to protect you and to guide you. And no matter how successful or how much money or what title you hold or how many accolades you have, not respecting authority will land you in hot water, like jail or getting fired or, places where you don't want to be. And that's really going to take away from what you really should be focused on. And so being as successful as I am now, I look back and I would just say to my younger self to respect authority. And I think that's ingrained in us from a very young age. But the meaning of respect is oftentimes distorted. So really focus on the word respect, and respect your peers, respect your relationships, respect authority, respect where you are, and know that even though you may want to take a different path, and even though you may want to make a different decision, it all comes back to the laws and the values, and the beliefs are there for a reason. So I think it's really important to comprehend the word respect and just really know what that means and follow it. So that is my...
I hope you're listening, young Melissa. I hope you're listening.
I know. I wish I told myself this like 5 years ago, or like when I was 21 or 20.
You could have left notes for yourself cryptically in one of those 5 books a week.
Yeah, I could have, but I wasn't reading then, so it wouldn't have made a difference. And that's the thing. I totally disrespected authority in every single sense of the word. Well,
it's no doubt now that you're buying into those beliefs big time, and you're sharing those beliefs, and it's really no surprise, Melissa, that you have become so successful, and that you've won so many accolades. And I really think from talking to you today, and this is the first time that we've ever connected, but it's just astonishing how much you're going to do in your life, because I can see that passion is just growing stronger. And as you gain more success, you want more success, but you're doing it for the right reasons, not for yourself, because that's ultimately going to come towards you, but you're doing it for the world, the audience, the people who need you. So I think that's absolute credit to you.
Yeah, a lot of people are really just taken back by the fact that I just turned 26. I don't know if you know this or not. So I just turned 26 years old, and they're like, you've accomplished more in your lifetime than I've ever accomplished. And I'm like 54, I'm like, 40 something. I'm like, hey, you had your opportunity, and you still have an opportunity. I mean, look at the founder of KFC, Colonel Sanders, 64 years old. The guy's out getting knocked down 1,008 times just so he can have his chicken out in the world. And he made a bigger impact than most people ever make because he never gave up. So the quote that I would say is the most important is "never give up" by Winston Churchill, because that's what it comes down to.
Melissa, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show this afternoon. I wish you all the best in the future, and always come back to speak to us, because with joining up dots, those dots never stop growing. And I'm a great believer that looking back and connecting our past is the best way of building our future. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.